Welding together metal in a forge can be quite a trick. Well, here we took two pieces of steel and we put individual pieces of copper in between the two steel plates and just started hammering them together. Eventually, these pieces of copper will start to weld together. Now you can see all this copper all fused together in a cube. So we just keep it hot and keep it hammering together. Now this method will work for quite a few materials, brass and bronze and copper. Right now we're just experimenting with the copper. So eventually we're going to start to take these corners, we're going to start to hammer them down until we get kind of a round disc. Our forge setup is pretty simple, just an anvil from Harbor Freight, and we have an old car rotor that we put together with a hair dryer. We use coal and a little bit of oil to keep it running. We've experimented with a lot of different foundries and a lot of different forges, and this old car rotor and a hair dryer works perfect. We started using wood, but it's really not that effective. Until you start working with coal, this system does not work. Not far from us, we have railroad tracks. And one day we walked across the railroad tracks and found all kinds of coal that had fallen off the train. So we have a few bags, and the coal is a necessity. So I would say our copper fusion experiment is actually going quite well. We just keep hammering it together, and it seems like it just continues to fuse even better each time we heat it up and keep tapping on it. Now that we have it all hammered into kind of a round, flat, disc-like shape, we'll take it in on the lathe and clean up the surface and see what we've got. Now that it's all cooled off, we'll take it and we'll chuck it up into our small Harbor Freight lathe. We'll use this small machinist square to make sure that it's nice and flat. I'm looking forward to spinning up the lathe and actually seeing what's underneath all this. Well, you can start to see a little bit of shine, and the more we go, the shinier it's gonna get. We're using a handmade tool with carbide on it, and this little handmade tool seems to work out real nice. This lathe came with just some typical high-speed tools that we could clamp into the lathe, but we were able to get these carbide tips, and with a little bit of creativity, we were able to clamp it on, make this tool, and it really does work better. Well, we've just about got our first pass, so when we shut down the lathe, we'll be able to see a little bit of how we did with our weld. Interesting. A few cracks, a few pits. I still want to see it shinier. This time we'll use a little bit of sandpaper, and I think this is going to give us the finish we want. Still a little bit rough, so we'll just keep polishing. I hope you have enjoyed our video on how to fuse or weld copper discs together. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it.